Hello and welcome back to our next science lesson. And so today we're going to continue looking at sound and we're going to have a look at whether I can demonstrate sounds that have different pitches and different volumes and what that means. So let's have a look. So let's recap what we talked about last time. So the sound and the ear in this case. So here's our diagram of the ear, and sound waves are collected by the pinna. So the outside of our ear, they channels the sound down into the ear canal, which is the next part. They travel along the ear canal until they vibrate against the eardrum, and the eardrum then vibrates, which then vibrates those tiny, tiny bones that they form, the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. And what these do, these three little bones, they amplify that vibration so that it then can be transferred into the cochlea, be picked up by the nerve. So it travels into the cochlea, turns. Remember those little tiny hairs that are in the cochlea vibrate at different points, and that causes electrical signals that are then passed along the auditory nerve to the brain. And remember, this happens really, really quickly. So there's not much of a delay between when we hear a sound to when our brain translates that sound. So the Sound Collector, this is by Roger McGurr. This poem is about some of the sounds we're surrounded by and asks us to consider what it would be like without them. So, a stranger called this morning, dressed all in black and grey, and put every sound into a bag and carried them away. The whistling of the kettle, the turning of the lock, the purring of a kitten, the ticking of a clock, the popping of a toaster, the crunching of the flakes, and when you spread the marmalade, the scraping noise it makes, the hissing of the frying pan, the ticking of the grill, the bubbling of the bathtub as it starts to fill, the drumming of the raindrops on the window pane, when you do the washing up, the gurgling of the drain, the crying of the baby, the squeaking of the chair, the swishing of the curtain, the creaking of the stair. The stranger called this morning. He didn't leave his name. He left us only silence. Life will never be the same. I think if you think about all these things, these are all noises that we hear that maybe we don't pay attention to. We're so used to hearing them, they happen all the time. But they're not sounds that we focus on, and our brain filters them out to allow us to focus on different things. So just think about it for a moment. All those different sounds you can hear and how they help us interpret the world around us. These sounds can be loud or quiet. They can be high-pitched or low-pitched. They can be pleasant or annoying. They can be relaxing or urgent. They can be pure or part of a collection. Now, just take a moment to imagine what it would be like without those sounds. If you couldn't hear those sounds happening all around you all the time, what would it be like? What would your world be like? How would it change? So we know that sounds are made by vibrations. And when the object vibrates, often when a force is applied, the air around them vibrates as well, or whatever medium they happen to be in. So if the vibration happens against the solid, it will travel along the solid. If it happens in water, it will travel through the water. If it happens in air, the vibration travels through the air. And what it causes is those vibrations to transfer through that medium, through the vibrations. This creates a sound wave that spreads outwards from the source of the vibration. So, for example, if we're looking at a speaker, this is the vibrations that goes along through the air. And you can see this is what's called a compression wave. We can measure the compression wave like this. Each peak, is where the compression wave happens as it travels along. And each trough is where there is no vibration. So you can see that's what the vibration would look like. But it's called a compression wave because it goes like this rather than up and down, like a normal wave. We can see here that a diagram of air particles from a speaker to a room and the vibration as it happens going across. So when we draw sound waves, we can measure them on a machine called an oscilloscope as well, and that shows the vibrations that happens as it comes across. And that's what that bottom one there, that would be what would be shown by an oscilloscope if it was measuring a very constant sound. And there is an oscilloscope. So different wave shapes mean different sounds. So here are two examples. We've got the blue one that you can see is more frequent, but the height of them are the same as this red one, but the red one happens less often than the blue one. So short waves, so this one that happens very regularly, show a high-pitched sound, whereas the long waves like this, and you measure a wave from the start to the same point again. So this one wave would be all of that all the way to there, whereas the one wave here is just to that, and it's almost half the distance, almost just the peak. Look, so a long wave shows a low pitch sound. This is how we get high pitch sounds and low pitch sounds. Now, I can't do very high pitch sounds because my voice doesn't allow me to, but some of you will be able to. And the difference is, as long as you're not changing the volume, the amplitude of the wave, which is how large it is from top to bottom, would stay the same. Just the frequency of the wave, how quick it happens, changes. The quicker it is, the higher pitch it is. And then you have this sort of wave. So this wave, the frequency is the same. So from the start of the wave to the end of the wave, it is the same here. But what's different is the amplitude of the wave, how high the wave is. And this shows the volume of the wave. And by volume, we need how loud or quiet it is. So the smaller the amplitude, which is the size of the wave from top to bottom, the quieter the sound. So here we have three sound waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, 4 sound waves. Which of the 4 sounds do you think is the loudest? Which do you think is the highest pitch and the quietest and the lowest pitch? Have a think now, see what you think. Remember what we talked about before. Pause now. Okay, so the loudest, we are looking at the highest amplitude, so from top to bottom. So number 2 here has the biggest distance from the bottom of the wave to the top of the wave, so it is the loudest. And you can see that on the blue, if you look at the blue lines on here, you see it traveling across here. So this wave is between these 2 blue lines. This one just goes above it. This one goes almost to the top and almost to the bottom, whereas this one's in between them. Then we've got the highest pitch, and the highest pitch, remember, is frequency, so the number of waves in the same space. So we've got 1, 2 and a bit waves. We've got 1 and a half almost. This one we've got 1, not quite 1 full wave. In this one we've got 1, 2, 3, almost 4 waves. So the highest pitch will be number 4 because we've got the most waves in the same space. The quietest is the one that has the lowest amplitude, so the distance from the top to the bottom is the smallest. And like I said, this is the largest. We've already said that one. This one's just above this blue line. This one's on the blue line. This one's below it. So sound 1 will be the quietest. And then the lowest pitch is the one that has the least number of waves in the same space. And as we counted before, that was number 3. Okay, and that's how we know the difference. And the same goes for, say you've got a very large drum or a very small drum. The smaller the drum, you hit it and the vibration happens quicker, whereas on a large drum it happens smaller, which is why you get that difference in pitch, one being low, one being slightly higher. As long as you hit them at the same pressure, you should get the same volume. So a single drum is quite limited. You can hit it harder for a louder sound, or you can use different sticks to change the sound slightly. But a whole set of drums are what gives you the difference in volume and pitch. And you can tell this because each one is different. So your task, can you create a homemade drum kit? So using items from around your house, create a drum kit that will sound different volumes and different pitches. How many different sounds can you make? Can you play an actual tune using your drum kit? and then maybe video your tune and upload it to Tapestry, and we can see how what you've worked out on what tune you might be able to play. Try not, if you have got a drum kit at home, try not to use that, because obviously we know that's a drum kit. But think about the items you could use around the house. Things like a bag, things like a box, a shoe box, a pan. There's lots of different items you have around your house that you could use in a way like a drum that would make different sounds. How about different pans? Do different pans come out with different sounds? Please be considerate of the other people in your house. Don't make too much noise, or do it when it's a time that it's okay for everyone to do it. Don't do it when your sister or brother are on a live session with another teacher, because I think that might be a little bit distracting. But have fun with it. I hope that makes sense. Have a good go with it. Just remember, there is two things that you need to remember. Pitch is how often the wave happens, and volume is how large the wave is from top to bottom. Okay? See you in the next video. Goodbye.